Welcome to Mentoring Unlocked, hosted by Maud Lindley, founder of Serendis Leadership and Mentor Key, the platform making mentoring impactful and elevating workplace development conversations. Maud is a renowned executive coach and leadership strategist with over 2 decades of experience, helping leaders unlock their full potential through adaptive leadership and meaningful mentoring. Tune in for personal mentoring stories, expert insights, practical tools, and bold conversations. Whether you're a mentor, mentee, or a culture shaper, there's something for you.
Amy, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. Amy Wild, you're the Chief Operating Officer Corporate at Investa. We've known each other for close to 10 years.
Yeah, I think it must be.
In many different contexts. But today we're here to talk about the context of mentoring. You have been an incredible sponsor, supporter, and mentor yourself of our various initiatives and mentoring program, but particularly the Property Council Inclusive Leadership Mentoring Program. How many times have you been a mentor on that program?
I think twice officially, but I'm due for a third round. So
I see, I would have said 5 times. This is the impact that you've made. Because also you have committed your organization many times, and you still are, to sponsor this really important initiative. So I'm really excited to have you as a guest today.
Thank you. It's my absolute pleasure to be here.
So you've got quite a varied career. I want to hear the golden thread. You have been in HR. You're now having a much broader remit, lately mostly at Investa. Tell us about what gets you out of bed in the morning. What have been the high points of your career so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I kind of go to the heart of what has connected my career, and you're right, it has been varied and it's had lots of, detours along the way. I think for me, it's people and possibilities. So I started my career in psychology. That was what my training was in, and worked the first part of my career in consulting, which was really hoping to, find the right places for people in organizations, understand what makes the humans tick, what the best conditions were to make those people successful in their roles. So I spent a lot of time providing advice to my clients around the right matches between humans and organizations, around coaching and enabling people to be the best that they could be in a leadership role. And so it was a really natural transition into an HR context for me as the next step in my career. Working in HR, I think, has its ups and downs and challenges. I think it's certainly something I didn't anticipate doing when I went through my studies earlier in life. Yeah, in fact, I swore I'd never do it, I think.
Why?
I think sometimes HR gets a bad rap. A lot of times it gets a bad rap. And, that's a shame. I think it's a misunderstood discipline, and the value and impact of a really strong human resources leader or business partner is immeasurable.
Amy, you embody that.
Oh, well, that's kind.
If I think about, the people that we work with in a HR capacity, you come on the top list in my mind, because as an external consultant, we know the value of partnering with someone who really cares about people and really cares about the performance of the organization, and someone who's able as well to have a robust debate with the executive team, someone who can understand deeply the executive team, but not being subservient to what they want. I think you absolutely embodied that throughout your career in HR.
Oh, thank you. I think for me, it's really important that you make a decision about how you want to do a role like that.
Yes.
And I think going into it, perhaps I'd seen from afar too many examples of doing that in a different way, and perhaps had a belief that was how that role needed to be done. And then spent, a fair bit of time within an HR team, and had the opportunity to take on lots of different roles and challenges, and particularly working through change, which was one of the harder things I think I had to do in my career in HR. But I learned so much from that, and I learned a lot about the kind of HR leader that I wanted to be, and what would have the most impact for the people that I was advocating for, and for the organizations that I was in. And that balance, I think, when you're in a role like that, is so important, to not forget you are an employee advocate and champion, And at the same time, you're there to harness what is often an organization's largest resource, it's people.
Yeah.
And that involves making tough decisions,
Yes.
but you can choose how you do that and the way in which you carry yourself through that and lead people through that.
I love that. That's absolutely phenomenal. To have that distance with the role. Sometimes I have a lot of empathy for that role because it is a very complex position to hold in the organization. You've got to hold different priorities at the same time.
Yeah. And I think, coming from a background in psychology, in some ways, I think that training helped me a little.
Immensely.
Learning the difference between empathy and sympathy and that little bit of distance to know that you can absolutely be there for a person going through a really difficult time and understand what's going on for them, and at the same time lift up and think about what's the best outcome here for the organisation and for the person sitting in front of you, and how to navigate through quite complex and challenging situations with authenticity, but also with that degree of care and compassion that often gets lost, I think.
Yes. Yeah, because you sometimes are drawn to doing your job effectively, and so you desensitize yourself. I can't say it, you've got to say it.
Desensitize? Is that we got to? I don't know.
Take away the sensitivity or the emotions.
Yes.
A bit like a surgeon has to remove themselves from the job to be able to do it effectively. So remove the emotions. So sometimes it's the temptation, isn't it, to remove the emotions?
Yes, and I often say to my team, and it's similar in an HR context and in a leadership context, I think, the day that I stop feeling emotional about difficult decisions that you need to make around people is the day that I stop leading people. If I'm not going home worrying about that conversation or worrying about the impact on the person, then I'm possibly not alert to what's going on and doing the best job that I can do. And, being able to sit in those conversations and make those tough decisions while at the same time hold that space to go, we're all humans after all.
Yeah. And we all intend well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Another facet of your role is to influence the culture, but also influence leadership or influence the executives to understand the culture and shape a better culture. That's something that I have seen you do so fantastically as well.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really passionate about that. And I think culture is one of those really difficult concepts because you can't always touch and see and feel it. And I had the opportunity to work on some really wonderful cultural change projects earlier in my career, which was incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
It was trying to shift the culture of an organisation, as you know, it takes a really long time and isn't easy. And what I saw, I think, through that work was the impact of leaders and leader behaviour on a culture, and just how difficult it was to, there's lots of levers you can pull, right? But pulling those levers won't have nearly the same impact as getting that leader behaviour to shift.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's really stuck with me through the course of my career. And now that I find myself in a role, leading an organisation alongside my peers, that's something that I always remember, that you forget as a leader that, you're just human and you're getting along doing your job. How much people look to you, look at you, watch so closely what you're doing for signs about what's okay, what's not okay here, what's valued, what matters. And so for me, that's a really big part of how you might steer a culture in an organisation.
And you can work at it for months and break it in 5 minutes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, that's really disheartening when that happens, but it will, right? I think as we're going through periods of change and we're course correcting as leaders, you will have missteps.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of part of the journey, but how you pick back up and self-reflect on that, and I think have a conversation about that is important.
That's often what we say, we are all humans, and so if you have a little misstep, the best thing you can do is to be vulnerable about it and open about it.
Yeah.
But recently, in the last, was it 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Your role expanded yet again. Tell us about that transition from a people-focused function to a broader operational focused function.
I learned a lot, would be a summary of it. Look, I think I was never one of those individuals that had the plan. for my career. And that's funny, working in a role where I was in HR for so many years. I think people often say, oh, didn't you have a 10-year plan? And
surely you had it
had it all mapped out. And I'm very honest with people and say no. For me, if I'm learning and growing and feeling challenged and feeling like I'm adding value and having impact, that's what matters. So look, stepping into the role that I'm in now, it was the first day of the second COVID lockdown in Sydney. So that gives you a little bit of context as to what was going on in the world. And there was a lot of complexity there, but I've absolutely loved the challenge of it. I think coming from a role where you spend so much time coaching others through leadership transitions, and you know all the things about what got you here won't get you there and all of that in principle. You then step in and do it yourself, and my word, it's much harder than
when you have to advise someone.
I have absolute empathy for every leader I've ever coached through that, and regret about how flippant I probably was with dispensing that advice. So,
no, you weren't, because you always do it with empathy.
But it is really eye-opening, but at the same time, a really wonderful challenge and terrific opportunity to work with some amazingly talented people that I have in my team. To help the organisation really, enable the achievement of our goals.
Now that you're saying second day of COVID lockdown, you stepped into that role. I remember now. It was June 2021 when we went back into lockdown without expecting it.
It was a fun time.
Now, amazing career so far, and a lot of personal reflection, that ability, that self-actualization that you've just given us a glimpse of just in the last 10 minutes of conversation. Tell us about the mentors that have helped you throughout this amazing career.
Yeah, I mean, I've not been fortunate to have a formal mentor per se, or to participate in a program like the wonderful ones that you run and that I've had the opportunity to be a mentor in.
Yes.
But reflecting back, I think for me, it's more been about those informal mentors or people that have played that role in my career, whether they knew it or not at the time.
Didn't know that they were a mentor in that minute.
Yeah, that's right. And maybe they did and they knew exactly what they were doing, and maybe they didn't. But I have learned an immense amount from those people, and I hope they know who they are, whether that be, lessons in the moment or being that person that was there for me at a challenging, time in my career, or who really pushed me to do something that I didn't think was possible, or where I perhaps didn't have that belief in myself to take a step in a different direction. That's been hugely valuable.
Can you think of a moment, like a turning point moment, an epiphany moment of mentoring for you that has unlocked you to get to the next level of awareness, confidence, consciousness, whatever it was?
Yeah, I think there's probably two that stand out for me. One was, I become a parent for the first time and was really giving a lot of consideration to what my next role was. And I think for anyone that's been through that journey of having a child and being on parental leave, and there's a lot of, well, for me anyway, there was a lot of self-doubt associated with that experience. I think I found motherhood harder than any career challenge that I'd ever had. And I was faced with a career choice about whether to return to a role that I knew, I was familiar with, I was comfortable with, I had all the flexibility I wanted, or to take a step into the big, bold unknown with a tiny baby. And I was leaning towards the familiar, right? And I had this wonderful person that I had a phone call with one day, and she basically, through the phone, kind of shook me and went, "Are you kidding? Back yourself. You can go and do whatever you want. That is the most ridiculous way of thinking about it that I've ever heard." And she hung up the phone, and I went, maybe she's right. And in that little moment, I made a sliding doors decision about where to go with my career.
To step into that unknown.
That's right. And I think in that context, all she did was, I guess, hold up a mirror around, in this moment, your confidence isn't there because of all this other stuff happening for you.
Yes.
And gave me that little kind of kick that I needed, I think, to do something different.
Amy, that's interesting because as a very experienced mentor, I'm sure you would tell me that the best mentors ask questions and help their mentee to find their own answers. But I can't help but think in that moment, actually, it wasn't a powerful question. It was a kick. It was.
Absolutely. And I think the more questions she had asked in that moment, the
Yes.
more I would have continued to be in my own
Yes.
head about that decision.
Yes.
And I think,
Yeah.
you know, mentoring there is a role for both.
Yes.
Right. So asking questions, allowing that space for people to get there on their own is absolutely critical. And I've seen that time and time again. And there's other times where if you have that trust with the person, you absolutely can play that role to give them what they need in that little minute.
And what you did was to present a reality, an alternate reality to what you had in your mind.
Yes.
And show you that it would be crazy not to go through that door. How you said it's the trust that you had established that allowed you to listen to that different perspective. What else?
I think there was no self-interest or other factors in that, I think, which is really important in a mentoring relationship, right? That person is just there for you.
Yeah.
You know, there's no kind of politics or other factors that could be at play that could be, you know, leading them to give you that advice or whatever else. And I think that's where I think mentors in particular are particularly valuable outside of a manager-employee relationship.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of devoid of all of that. You drop it all and it's that little bit more objective perhaps than it otherwise would be.
Yeah. All right. So that's interesting. I'm sure many people had told you that you should take that role, but you didn't listen to them until that particular person said, "Are you crazy?" And that's because that person knew you and you trusted them to really have that completely neutral, objective perspective on what your capabilities were.
Yeah.
And I guess this advice giving only is powerful when you have built that neutrality, that trust. How did that person build that for you?
We had worked together for a long time. This was a person that was a colleague. And I think mentoring can come from lots of different places and in lots of different contexts. And so there was time and trust there. But I also just think the way this individual really went into bat for people and was really in their corner and advocated for them was a huge hallmark of their leadership approach.
Right.
And what made them great at their role. And I had seen that time and time again and knew that came from a really genuine place for that person.
Right. So you had that deep respect for who they are.
Yeah.
And so that perspective coming from that person is what made it stick,
yes,
I guess.
Absolutely.
What made you go through the door. Now, you mentioned another moment.
Yes.
I'm keen to hear.
Yes.
What was the other moment of mentoring?
The other moment, I think, it was a really challenging time for me in my role. And I had a piece of work that I had been trying to get over the line. I think it was probably 2 years, this thing that we had been working on together. And this person was my manager and but played a role beyond that for me. And I was just stuck. I couldn't work out why we weren't getting the support that we needed from a particular stakeholder group.
Yeah.
I had tried, I knew I was right. I was convinced I was right, which of course, isn't the whole game. I had tried getting external advice. I had tried different people I had tried every trick in the book to go, how do we get this through to these sets of stakeholders? And this person sat me down one day and had what I think must have been one of the most difficult conversations he's ever had with me. To help me understand that it wasn't what I was saying. It wasn't that I was wrong, but there was other dynamics in that room that were really going to prevent that from getting across the line. It was politics and style and impact and all of those sorts of things that I think we find it difficult as leaders and as mentors to have conversations about, right? Because it gets a little bit personal sometimes.
Touches your deep emotions, your personal beliefs, your mindset.
Yeah. So I think what he did, number one, he let me fail for a while it was safe to do so, because I think he knew that I would learn from those experiences.
Wow. Okay.
And then when I really got to that point where I was stuck, he hit me between the eyes with a piece of feedback that must have been uncomfortable to give, and it was uncomfortable to receive. But I got it. And I had this light bulb moment. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is the way I need to approach it. And he just went, I know you know what to do. Yes, go and do that. And that was it. I went and did that, approached the relationship with that stakeholder really differently, and the whole thing sort of got over the line instantly.
Amazing.
And I think on reflection, there were a couple of things that he did in that mentoring context for me. One was creating that space for me to try different things and not get there, and be there for me when that happened, knowing that that was safe in that context, because he knew that I would learn through doing it. And I'm not great at taking advice typically, so telling me wasn't going to work. And then I think after we got to that point where there was a block for me, knowing when to go there and to really go there, and that we had the trust that he could do that, was what changed the game for me.
So in a way, he let you learn. Right? He could have said it 2 years like at the start. He could have said, these are the dynamics. This is where you will need to learn.
Yes. Yeah.
What learning have you taken from that for the I guess other projects in after the success? Or
I think you learn lots of lessons about the dynamics of politics and influence, and it's things that you know intuitively, but it's easier to spot when you're one step removed.
Yeah, of course.
And so in coaching other leaders through the years, I find it much easier to see these things from a distance, which is why I think the role of a mentor is so important, because you do have that ability to almost stand up on the balcony.
Because you're not in it.
Bleeding. Yes. Yeah, that's right. It's bleedingly obvious when you're not in it. And when you are in it, having that ability to pause and self-reflect and take yourself out of it for a moment and go, what are the unsaid things that are happening here that are influencing this dynamic? And giving myself time to breathe and to consider that has been hugely helpful.
You're touching on the role of the mentor. Now let's talk about your role as a mentor. I think if you just talked about a couple of moments of mentoring that you've had in your career, I'm only imagining how many people out there would talk about their moment of mentoring with you as their mentor. You've been deliberately mentoring people, but I'm sure that you are mentoring, 10 times a day. I'm imagining Amy having 10 conversations a day, and in every moment,
next to my desk. No.
In every moment, there is a nugget of mentoring there. Tell me about how you bring that mentoring piece throughout your days at work.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think part of it is instinctive for me. I come from a really strong, passionate place around helping people and helping them to fulfill their potential. And I think sometimes I don't realize I'm doing it.
Yes.
But it is something I've become more conscious of as I've moved through my career. And, what I have realized is that almost every single person comes to work trying to do a good job. Yeah. Right? They're not trying to upset other people or do a bad job at people just aren't built that way, right? No. And so having the perspective to know, this human sitting in front of me that's clearly struggling with this thing, they're trying their best. Yeah. And being able to give them a nudge in the right direction, is the right thing to do by them. But I also find that incredibly rewarding as a leader to see others succeed and be the best that they can be and make the impact that they want to be making in their roles. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to make a link to what you said at the very beginning. You said that to your roles, you've always brought that empathy piece. And it's not sympathy, it's empathy. I love that distinction. And I can't help but make the link between what you've just said. If you understand that everyone comes to work with the best of intentions, that's your first empathy step to understand their perspective, which is obviously different to what's happening for them in the workplace. So if we take a moment to understand where that person's coming from, what are their intentions, what are their beliefs, what is shaping their actions, then that's where you can really do the magic.
Yeah. It's that kind of walking a mile in their shoes, right? And thinking about what's brought them here, what are the things at play, what might be going on for that individual and the people around them. It's never as simple as what you're seeing on face value.
Yeah. So I guess that's the first step in anything you do. is understanding where they're coming from, walking in their shoes, seeing the world through their eyes. How do you then help steer the best outcome for them and for the organization? As you've told us, this is really what you hold, I guess. It's like, where are they coming from?
Right.
What's their perspective? What's best for them? What's best for the organization? How do you reconcile both? How do you lead them on the right path?
Yeah, it can be tricky, right? Depending on the situation. But I think asking them the right questions to understand their experience and where they're at, and then perhaps asking them some challenging questions to get them thinking about it a little bit differently. So it is that concept of holding the mirror up a bit and gently helping them to understand how something might be perceived a little bit differently to the way that they're intending it. And that concept of intentions being that little bit removed from how you actually are behaving, and then how others are perceiving that behavior is something that I find quite helpful with people to sit them down and go, I understand this is where you're coming from.
Yes.
Have you thought about this, or have you considered how that might come across in this context? And I do find that asking the right questions, people will often get there on their own, which it has so much more power than you telling them and as you said before, dispensing advice, which can be helpful if you use it sparingly, I think.
Yes. But by your questions and by holding up the mirror, you're helping them see the other perspective, which we know if you can do that, that's the superpower.
Yeah, and I think beyond that, sometimes people just need to feel listened to.
Yes.
Particularly when you're, leading and mentoring through change for someone.
Yes.
What you can be seeing is literally emotion playing out in the workplace. And people forget that, they think that we come to work and we're robots and we're here to get a job done. But humans are complex creatures with lots going on, and holding space for people to just tell you about all of their frustrations and get all of that out. Often that will help them to get past it into a place where they can be more constructive in thinking about what those next steps are.
So holding that space, holding the mirror to help them see the other perspective or the impact of their intent. Do you have particular moments where, as a mentor, you really have helped that person walk through that door, sort of make that step or have that epiphany? Are there moments of mentoring? I'm sure there are millions, but are there any moments that have stuck with you?
I think one for me was helping one of my mentors to understand that next step for her and remove some barriers that she had in her own thinking about what that might be. And so the individual that I was working with, I think, had come up through quite a traditional career path in her discipline and was looking at things quite linearly. And I think was getting a little bit stuck and thinking, there's not going to be an opportunity here, or I can't do this. And we worked for a little while about what she loved, what she was good at, where she saw herself adding value. And she knew all of those things and was able to articulate it. And we had a really terrific conversation one day where I could see the penny drop for her about, well, if this stuff you're wonderful at and it's your special talent, right? There's no reason why you can't stretch the boundaries of where you might apply that in the workplace. And seeing that door open for her and the lights kind of go on about, I don't just have to go here. I could go and use this over here or over here or over here was just incredibly rewarding to see her think about herself in a different way and her potential and the possibilities that lay ahead of her.
That's amazing, because actually your most rewarding moment as a mentor almost mirrors the most rewarding moment you have had as a mentee yourself.
I hadn't thought about that.
So it's opening the world of potential to someone who's limiting themselves.
Yes.
That's perhaps encapsulating the powerful moments of mentoring for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you, tell me about what you get out of, sometimes it can be draining, right?
Yes.
Especially in your position of constantly trying to understand someone's perspective and helping them get there, nurturing them, nudging them in the right direction.
It can be frustrating as well. Let's be honest about that. I think for mentors and for leaders in general, that can be a really challenging situation where sometimes you just want to sit them down. Well, this is what you need to go and do. But you know that that's actually not going to help them long term. And so, being kind to yourself, I think, is important.
Of course.
As a mentor, to say, you're not always going to say the right thing in that moment. And the fact that you didn't quite get them there in that conversation isn't necessarily about them or you. It just is. And being able to pick yourself back up and go, okay, we'll try again. And it's a journey. It is important. Otherwise, I think, you take it to heart and go home and go, oh, okay, I'm not doing a great job. But that time that you spend with that person and coming back again and creating that safe space and building that trust over time and being there again, I think is part of that. And getting to that place with that person where you do have that really deep trust.
Yes.
So when you do need to take those moments to say, okay, here it is.
Yes.
Here's some really challenging feedback.
Yeah.
And to push a little bit harder with the person that they take that in the right spirit and they really listen to it.
Yeah.
And then you can really leap forward.
The moment is it's an important component in that relationship. I often find you've got the mentee and what they're capable of doing. You've got the mentor and their capacity to elicit the potential of the mentee. But there's a third party in that equation, which is the right time.
Yes.
It has to be the right time in that person's life to make that leap, or it has to be the right time for that conversation. And sometimes we just have to accept wasn't the right
not
time.
Now. That's right. People have got lots going on or they're just not in the headspace to hear it.
Yes.
And delivering that message at the wrong time can actually have the opposite impact for someone. If they're not in a state to really take on board quite difficult feedback or they're just not ready, you can end up going back the other way. And so it's really making sure you feel confident that that person does have that trust with you and that they're in a place where they're ready and willing to take that message on board. And being patient. I think it's not a race. It's sort of not about you at all as a mentor.
Yes.
And being able to go at the pace of that person in front of you is really important.
Well, you raise another fantastic topic here, which is as a mentor, you've got to take your own desire to fix out of the equation, because then if you're too eager to actually make an impact today, then you may actually create unintended negative consequences.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's also not about what you want and whether you want to fix something.
Yes.
It's about what that other person, what your mentee wants out of that relationship and what they need.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes they're very clear on that. I've had mentees that have come in with a big plan and a list of the things they want to achieve, and then they go away and do homework after each session and come back and say, this is what I've done and here's what I want to do next. And I'm like, that's wonderful. And I've had other mentees that had no idea what they wanted out of the relationship or how to get there, but just really were benefiting from having that person to share with and listen, and challenge and offer a different outside perspective. And in fact, through the program that you run, Maud, the two mentees that I had year after year could not have been more different in what they wanted and needed out of that, despite being from the same functional discipline.
Yeah.
And I actually find that really fascinating about it, that everyone will take something different from their experience of being a mentee. And I think the best thing we can do as mentors is lean into that and go, what do they need from me right now in this moment, so that I can make a positive impact with them.
There are so many questions. I've got a million more questions I'd like to ask you, but I know that maybe you have to come back for all these questions.
Oh my goodness. I'd love to, sure.
No, you've raised so many amazing points. What I'm really taking away is that empathy at the center of that relationship, because if you understand the other person's intent, which is always a good intent from their perspective, you can understand how to bring them to the party, how to help them see their impact. And you've got to develop that trust to be able to choose the right moment to hold the mirror and sometimes deliver that message, whether it's a message of, are you crazy? You can do this. Or there might be something that you're really missing.
Yes.
And have you thought about the other components of what you're trying to achieve? Thank you so much, Amy. I've got the traditional fast 5 questions if you're ready.
Yes, hit me.
So just quick answers to a few questions. The biggest misconception about mentoring is?
Well, that you need to be this wise, experienced leader that's seen and done it all.
Yeah, absolutely. The skill that mentoring helps you develop as a leader that no other program, no other leadership development experience can help you achieve.
I think you just spoke about it. It's that real empathy for another's perspective.
Yes.
And translating that into being able to offer perspective to someone.
Yeah. What's your quick advice to an organization trying to develop a mentoring program?
Just give it a go. I would say anything is better than nothing in that context, and don't try to overstructure it. Listen to what your people need. Try things, and you can refine it as you go.
Yeah.
Doing something in that space, I think people will tell you is a great start, right?
Yeah. Last 2 questions about leadership. Any articles, podcasts, books that you have listened to or read that have had an impact on you recently?
Well, that's a really good question. It's been a little while, actually, and I'm going to get the name of them wrong. So
that's okay.
No, I need a new recommendation from you, Maud.
Oh, well, my hero is always Amy Edmondson.
Amy Edmondson is good.
Yeah. And the future of leadership is?
Limitless.
Oh, nice. Love it. Amy, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here with me today. We're going to have to get you back to hear even more of your wisdom on mentoring. But thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Maud. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Mentoring Unlocked. This podcast is powered by MentorKey, the platform designed to make mentoring impactful. If this episode unlocked inspiration within you, please follow, share, or leave us a review.